If you're looking for an urgent global health crisis, I mean, one that really defines our century, you don't have to look much further than Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, absolutely. The scale is just, it's staggering.
It really is. Projections are suggesting a tripling of cases globally by 2050, mostly because, populations are aging everywhere.
And you see these incredible pockets of pressure. I think the source mentioned China alone could account for nearly a quarter of all global cases.
Wow.
Yeah, and the thing that makes it so urgent, so acute, is the reality that we still don't have a cure. Pharmacologically, we're not there.
So that shifts everything. It puts all the focus on prevention.
Exactly. If you can't fix it, you have to try and prevent it. And one of the most powerful tools we're finding for that is nutrition.
Which is why we were so excited to do this deep dive. Our mission today is to really unpack this huge 5-year study.
A really rigorous one.
Yeah, it followed 1,500 people, some healthy, some with confirmed Alzheimer's, and it directly compared two major diets, the Mediterranean, which everyone knows, and the more targeted MIND diet.
Yeah, and this wasn't just, a questionnaire. They looked at hard data, cognitive scores over time, biomarkers from blood and spinal fluid, even MRI scans of the brain.
So for you listening, we're going to get to the bottom of it. Over 5 years, which diet gave better neuroprotection? And maybe more importantly, we're going to look at the why, the genetic and biochemical reasons these diets seem to work. Okay, so let's pop the hood on this study because the way it was designed is, it's key to why we can trust the results.
Right. So it's a 5-year prospective cohort study, ran from 2020 to 2024.
And the participants?
1,500 people, aged 50 to 75. And they split them right down the middle, 750 healthy controls and 750 patients already diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
And how are they measuring brain function?
They use two main tools. The first is the mini mental state exam, the MMSE, which a lot of people have heard of.
Okay.
But crucially, they also use a Montreal Cognitive Assessment, or MoCA.
And why both?
Yeah.
What does the MoCA bring to the table?
It's like a finer instrument. The MMSE is good, but it's best for, let's say, moderate to severe decline. The MoCA is much more sensitive. It can pick up on the really early, subtle signs of trouble, especially in complex things like executive function.
So it catches the problem before it becomes, a huge deficit.
Exactly. And for a prevention-focused study, that's vital. But they didn't just stop there. They were looking for the physical evidence of the disease.
The biomarkers.
Yep. They took blood and cerebrospinal fluid samples to measure amyloid beta, tau protein, and neurofilament light chain, or NFL.
So those are basically the telltale signs of actual brain damage and cell death.
That's right. It's the residue of the disease process.
So when the study started, were the groups pretty similar outside of the disease itself?
They were, yeah. Very well matched for age, gender, education, all the things you'd want to control for.
But the health differences must have been pretty stark at baseline.
Oh, completely. The AD patients, they started with much lower cognitive scores, an average MMSE of about 21.5 versus nearly 28 for the healthy controls. And all those biomarkers we mentioned, the amyloid, tau, NFL, and even general inflammation markers were already way, way higher.
So that gave the researchers a really clear starting point to track the decline over the next 5 years.
A very clear trajectory, yes.
All right, let's get to the main event here, the diet comparison. Now, the Mediterranean diet, or MEDI, is the one we all know.
It's the classic, yeah.
Lots of fruits, veggies, olive oil, fish. Yeah. We already had good data saying it could cut Alzheimer's risk by, 30 to 40%?
Something in that range, yes. It's known to be very effective.
And then you have the MIND diet.
Right. MIND stands for Mediterranean Dash Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. It's a bit of a mouthful.
So it's a hybrid. What makes it so specialized for the brain?
It's all about precision. The MIND diet zeroes in on a few specific neuroprotective powerhouse foods. It's much stricter about them. Green leafy vegetables are a big one. The diet requires 6 or more servings a week. And berries, at least twice a week. It also really pushes nuts and whole grains, but it's much tougher than maybe on limiting things like red meat and fried foods.
So it's the specific focus that sets it apart.
Exactly, the precision.
Okay, so 5 years later, the results are in. What was his verdict?
Well, the headline is that both diets provided really significant, meaningful protection. High adherence to either one was linked to much better cognitive scores.
It was one better.
Yes. The MANDA diet showed a slightly stronger statistical association with preserving cognitive function than the Mediterranean diet did.
Okay, let's talk about that phrase, slightly stronger. Because if the difference is tiny, Is it really worth being that strict with your diet for 5 years?
That is the crucial question, and you have to look at the numbers to see it. After they adjusted for all the confounding factors, they found that a 1-point increase in someone's mind diet score was linked to a 0.33-point increase on the MMSE.
Okay. And for the matey?
The MEDI also had a positive link, but it was weaker, about a 0.11-point increase on the MMSE.
Whoa. So, hold on. That means following the MINA diet was almost 3 times more protective against that cognitive decline over the 5 years.
In a manner of speaking, yes, the magnitude of the effect was that much greater. And that's not a slight difference anymore. That really changes the conversation about what to recommend to people.
That's the nugget right there. That specific emphasis on the berries and leafy greens seems to be what really moves the needle.
It really does. Now, to understand why, we have to go from the diet itself to the biology.
Let's do it. What do the biomarkers show?
This is where it gets fascinating. High adherence to both diets led to a significantly slower increase in those bad biomarkers, the amyloid, tau, and NFL.
So it wasn't just hiding the symptoms. It was actually slowing down the rate of damage inside the brain.
That's a perfect way to put it. It was slowing the accumulation of that toxic debris and, quieting the alarm bells of cell death.
And what about inflammation? That's always a big part of the story with brain health.
A huge part. And this was one of the strongest findings. High diet adherence led to major drops in inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein and IL-6. Essentially, the diet is calming the whole system down, reducing the chronic stress on the brain.
And they even had pictures, MRI scans from the beginning and the end of the study.
Right, we can actually see the physical structure being preserved.
So explain that for us. Why is something like hippocampal atrophy, that shrinkage of the memory center, such a focus for researchers?
Because the hippocampus is ground zero for memory formation. As you'd expect, the AD patients in the study showed much faster shrinkage there. But, and this is the key, high adherence to these diets directly fought against that.
So the food was literally protecting the physical architecture of the brain.
Precisely. Higher diet scores correlated directly with more preserved volume in the hippocampus and thicker cortex. It's an incredible visualization of food as medicine.
So if I'm making my grocery list, what are the key ingredients doing the work here? Is it the omega-3s, the polyphenols?
It's all of them. They identified those 3 groups, polyphenols, omega-3s, and B vitamins as being critical. But here's the really important part. The study stressed that it's the whole food approach that matters. They cited other research showing that if you just take, say, an omega-3 supplement, the effects are inconsistent or even non-existent compared to eating the whole diet. The synergy is what counts.
Okay, let's shift gears to personalization, because this isn't a one-size-fits-all situation, right? The study looked at genetics, specifically the APOE4 gene.
Right, the most well-known genetic risk factor for Alzheimer's, and the study absolutely confirmed its impact.
What did it find?
People who carried that gene variant had poorer cognitive performance from the start, and they experienced a much steeper decline over the 5 years, about 1.2 points lower on the MMSE than non-carriers.
So you're just more vulnerable if you have that gene. How does that change the dietary advice?
This is where it gets really powerful. For those APOE4 carriers, the standard mind diet advice wasn't quite enough.
They needed more.
They needed a more targeted approach. They are advised to get significantly greater quantities of omega-3s, antioxidants, and those polyphenol-rich foods.
So like double down on the fatty fish and berries.
Exactly. The idea is if you know your specific genetic vulnerability, you can strategically, overdose in a good way on the specific nutrients that counteract that vulnerability.
It's moving from personalized medicine to truly personalized nutrition.
That's it. You know your car has a specific weakness, so you reinforce that specific part.
And beyond the genetics, the study itself was using some really advanced tech to track all this. They weren't just using paper food diaries.
No. And that's a huge methodological plus. They used an AI-powered machine learning model.
How did that work?
Participants used a mobile app to log what they ate, and a random forest classifier, that's the AI, analyzed their adherence and actually predicted their cognitive outcomes 5 years down the line.
Okay, you have to talk about that prediction power, because that number in the source material was it was unbelievable.
It's astounding. The model achieved what's called an AUC of 1.00 in predicting cognitive impairment.
Which means?
It means it was perfect. 0 false positives, 0 false negatives. If the model looked at someone's diet and baseline health and predicted they'd be impaired in 5 years, it was 100% correct every single time.
That is unheard of.
It really is. And it just removes so much of the doubt and recall bias you see in older nutritional studies. It makes these findings incredibly reliable.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, the big takeaway from this 5-year deep dive is that both the Mediterranean and the Mind diets are incredibly powerful ways to slow down cognitive decline.
They are absolutely effective non-pharmacological strategies.
But, and this is the key point, the Mind diet seemed to have a clear statistical edge. That targeted focus on brain-specific foods, like the leafy greens and berries, really seems to make a difference in preserving your cognitive health.
And what's so empowering about this is that the benefits were there regardless of things like age, sex, education, or even whether you carried that high-risk APOE4 gene.
So diet is a truly modifiable factor that you have control over.
It is a significant active lever you can pull for your own brain health. The evidence is just locked down.
It's incredibly empowering information.
It is. And it leaves us with a final thought for you to take away. Given that these whole food diets consistently protect the actual physical structure of the brain, while isolated supplements so often fail to do the same, what does that tell us about the complex synergy of nutrients our bodies actually need? And, how should that change the way we think about quick fix solutions versus real sustainable lifestyle change?